So welcome to our Going Beyond series. This series is taking you beyond that Sunday morning experience because we believe that, man, God has some powerful things He wants to do in your life. And a lot of that happens beyond the walls even of the church. In this series, we're highlighting the 3 key ingredients you need to grow in your walk with the Lord. One of those ingredients is gospel community. And in particular, today we're going to be talking about our core 3 people that we need in our life. Well, when we mention gospel community, what is that exactly? Well, we know what that word community means, a common unity around something. And sometimes you have community in your neighborhood. You all live in the same place, or community in the sense of a basketball team. You're all playing on the same team. But when it comes to gospel community, we use that word because the thing we have in common unity is the gospel, the good news about Jesus Christ. And we believe that when that is the core thing we share in unity together, that powerful things happen in the midst of that kind of community. Now, that type of community begins to model and look like Jesus. Jesus' hands and His feet serving and acting and resembling Him to the world. In fact, we see Jesus praying for that kind of unity in John 17 when He prays that we would be one as He and the Father are one. And so we see that gospel community is reflected in a John 17 kind of prayer. That's what it is at its core. Now, in particular, when you have gospel community, you'll have this thing we call the core 3 and beyond the core 3. Now, the core 3, what we mean by that are the core 3 people around you that have a close-knit, close connection with you. These are the people that you call when you're struggling. These are the people that you call when you're celebrating a victory. These are the people that you just sit down with and have a cup of coffee together because you enjoy each other's company and can encourage one another in life and in the ministry of what God's doing in your life. These are also the people that can hold you accountable for some of those tough things in your life. Now, why do we say the core 3? Where does that idea in particular come from? Well, we recognize that Jesus has a lot of people around Him. They're experiencing with the 12 disciples this little gospel community there. But in particular, multiple times in Scripture, we see that Jesus has 3 key people around Him that He's doing life with and bringing in to some of the most powerful moments in His life. Those key 3 people for Jesus were Peter, James, and John. And so there's a few different passages of Scripture where we see these 3 key people are involved. They're there with the first time Jesus raises someone from the dead, this powerful moment. They get to experience that moment in His ministry. They're also there at the Mount of Transfiguration, literally the mountaintop, overwhelming, joyous moment where Jesus reveals His glory for the first time in full splendor. And they're in shock and awe. These 3 guys are there for that mountaintop moment. But they're also there with Jesus on the Garden of Gethsemane when He's struggling and suffering, and at some of the darkest moments, these 3 guys are there. And that's what that core 3 people are to be in your life. Now, how do you find core 3 people like this, that kind of core 3 people to surround yourself with? Now, first off, it might not be exactly 3. You might have 4 or 5, you might have 2, 1, wherever you're at. The exact number isn't the key piece. It's the principle that we see demonstrated in those core 3 people in Jesus' life. And so we're suggesting to have 3, to follow that model that we see with Jesus, but maybe you might have 5, or maybe you might have 2. The exact number isn't the key, but the type of relationship you see modeled with that is what's key. And so again, how do you find those kinds of people? Well, it starts with where you're at right now. It starts with starting to share with people what God is doing in your life. It starts with intentionally seeking out that kind of gospel community, plugging in. Small groups are an excellent place to find those core 3 people, but sometimes it's not until you enter into almost that crisis moment in life that God seems to reveal who those core 3 people are in your life. And so we would highly suggest that in this meantime, if you're not in the crisis mode right now especially, to be intentionally seeking out, to be praying that God would put it on your heart, who are those core people that I feel vulnerable with sharing struggles, that I trust, that they'll be alongside thick and thin on the good days. They're ready there to party on top of the mountain with me, but they're going to be there when things get tough, to pray, to come alongside to support. And who are those 3 people that I can just spend life with and spend those moments with? Now, those kinds of relationships don't just happen overnight. They require intentional seeking and prayer. And so small groups are an excellent setting for that because they're a moment where you can start to learn people and get to know people better and in a deeper way. And so maybe that prayer for those core 3 people starts with this small group that you're in right now. You might find one of those people in this small group. But we would highly suggest, man, if you don't have anyone that fit that kind of context, those core 3 people, that you would see that as a priority to start praying about and asking the Lord to bring into your life even this week ahead, because that is one of the key parts of gospel community.